Belize's economy saw a solid 6.6% growth in the third quarter of 2024, with all sectors, including agriculture, bouncing back after previous struggles. This upbeat news comes from the latest stats by the Statistical Institute of Belize, S.I.B. Today, the Institute broke down the performance of various categories from July to October, comparing them to the same period in 2023. The total value of goods and services produced in the third quarter hit $1.23 billion, which is $75.6 million more than the same period last year. Interestingly, the data also shows 0% inflation compared to 2023. S.I.B. Director General Diana Castillo explained to reporters how they arrived at these figures.
Sometimes we have a situation where in a particular municipality or even at the national level, you have some prices go up, some prices go down, and they kind of offset each other. So without looking in detail at what might be happening in that particular municipality, I can't really say, but it happens from time to time. It doesn't mean that prices were completely stable. It just means that what went up and what went down offset each other. 10 years ago, I would say inflation was much more stable, but this has to do with a lot of the external shocks and factors that we have been experiencing, not just in Belize, but globally.
The unemployment rate is now down to 2.1%. We asked Castillo to shed some light on this, especially since it seems to contradict what the average person on the street is experiencing.
We have a specific definition for who falls within the labor force and who is classified as unemployed. So to be classified as unemployed, a person obviously has to be without work, but they also have to be available to work and looking for work. Now you have persons who are outside of the labor force, so about 45% of the working age population is not at all in the labor force. And so this is where I think people are seeing that there are persons who are not working, they are not engaged in productive activity, and that is where the disconnect between the unemployment rate, which is those persons who are not working but they're looking for work, versus persons who are not engaged in productive activity but they're not looking, they're not available, etc.
On the poverty level index for September, statistician Christian Oriano said that 22.1% of the population was poor.
In September 2024, 89,874 persons among 20,562 households were considered to be multidimensionally poor. We now compare the 2023 MPI results to the 2024 MPI results. A decrease of 4.3 percentage points was observed for the incidence. This is a result of 14,070 individuals among 3,534 households coming out of being multidimensionally poor, notably due to a decrease in the share of the poor population that experienced deprivations in areas such as improved sanitation, access to internet, and dependency. When comparing the intensity between both years, it can be observed that the severity of poverty showed very little change.
Statistician Ronald Ariano shared that for the period from January to October 2024, imports stood at 9.2%, higher than in 2023.
The total domestic imports for the first 10 months of the year amounted to $2.4 billion, up 9.2% or $206 million when compared to imports for the first 10 months of 2023. Currently, imports stood at $2.4 billion, which is considerably greater than that of imports before 2020. Let's look at the top categories that contributed to this overall increase in merchandise imports. It can be observed that machinery and transport equipment recorded a significant rise for the period, from $494.4 million to $614.5 million, a 24.3% or $120.1 million increase when compared to 2023.
Oriano said exports were up a notch.
The total for the first 10 months of 2024 amounted to $363.5 million, representing a modest growth of 0.6% or $2 million compared to the same period in 2023. Bananas experienced the largest increase, climbing from 50.9 million to 71.3 million. Other exports, including cattle and alcoholic beverages, went up by 9.2 million for the first 10 months of the year. Similarly, due to favorable prices for orange concentrate, the citrus products increased from 18.6 million to 26.9 million. These gains were tempered by declines in two major categories. Sugar fell by 18.5 million from 147 million to 128.4 million on account to the timing of shipments. Exports of animal feed dropped sharply, decreasing from 31.3 million to 11.5 million.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Marion Ali.